The Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad of the 1950s presented an image of sleek diesel-powered stainless steel passenger and freight trains. However, from July 1955 to July 1966, the Burlington, or the Q as it was affectionately known, had honored the request of rail enthusiasts to operate examples of their shrinking fleet of steam locomotives. On July 3, 1955, the Q's First Northern number 5600, along with 282 number 4955, blocked couplers with a 5-car excursion train. This event started a procession of excursion trips that would last until July of 1966. The Burlington had operated such trains as far back as 1937. The demise of the steam locomotive during the early 1950s prompted a rush of requests to operate what locomotives were still operational. In the intervening years, 20 different locomotives of 7-wheel arrangements powered these various trains, not only on the Burlington, but also on the subsidiary lines Colorado and Southern and Fort Worth and Denver. This program will concentrate on the trips operated out of Chicago with the Clyde Roundhouse as a focal point. .464 Hudson type number 4000 was used to power an excursion on July 1, 1956. The train operated from Chicago to Galesburg via Barstow, where a photo run was staged. This locomotive was rebuilt in 1937 from its original number 3002. Outfitted with lightweight alloy side rods and roller bearings, the engine emerged from the West Burlington shop with a new number and encased in a stainless steel shroud. Named Aeolus, the Greek name for the keeper of the wind, the locomotive was to augment the diesels operating with the Zephyr fleet. A sister engine, number 4001, was also built for this service. They could operate at sustained speeds of 100 miles per hour. The shrouds came off the locomotives in 1941. At Galesburg, a display of stored locomotives were in the yard for the fans to photograph and inspect. The 4000 was placed on display at La Crosse, Wisconsin in August of 1963. .460 10-wheeler number 637 was built by the Rogers Locomotive Works in 1892. On Labor Day weekend 1956, this small engine teamed up with the number 4000 to pull a fan excursion from Chicago to Ziering via Burgess Junction and Streator. Number 4000 brought the train from Chicago to Aurora, where it was turned over to the 637 and a general-purpose diesel number 235. At Sheridan, Illinois, a movie run was made. Arriving at Streator, the locomotives were cut off the train for servicing and photos. The train was turned on the interchange Y with the New York Central at Ziering. Number 637 remained on the roster until 1961. Donated to the city of Aurora, the little locomotive was rescued from total vandalism in the 1990s by the Illinois Railway Museum and placed on display at their property in Union, Illinois. We take a last look at the little 10-wheeler at the Mendota, Illinois coaling facility. The fall grain rush of 1956 was to be the last hurrah for the Burlington's 484 Northerns. Photographed in October of that year, 5634 has just arrived from Galesburg and was going through the time-honored procedure of refueling. It is backed under the coaling tower to fill the 27-ton coal bunker. The engine now proceeds down to the service area for a 12,000-gallon drink of water. The grates in the firebox are shaken down of cinders, the sand dome is filled, and the big locomotive is put into the roundhouse for lubricating. In a few hours, the 5634 will return west with another freight train. On a cold November day, 5605 takes its turn for service, while 5615, which has just emerged from the roundhouse, waits on the ready track. The Northern gets its tender topped off with water and leaves for the westbound departure yard. These black and white scenes show some additional operation of the fall grain rush out of Clyde Yard. This was normal operation of a steam locomotive, but also a very labor-intensive machine. Diesels were taking over, and most railroads had already sold their steam locomotives for scrap. The Q was one of the last railroads to fully dieselize. The steam locomotive was about to become a modern-day dinosaur. September 1st, 1957, saw 464 number 3003 called on to power a fan trip from Chicago to Galesburg via Savannah and Barstow. This is one of 12 Hudson-type locomotives built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1930 to celebrate the railroad's 80th anniversary. They were used to power the new flagship passenger trains called the Black Hawk, the Excursion, and the Aristocrat. Equipped with 78-inch driving wheels, this locomotive could run at a sustained speed of 85 to 90 miles per hour. While being turned at Savannah, you get the fireman's view from the cab. The junction at Barstow, where this movie run was made, was always a favorite photo location. After being retired from service, 3003 was always available for photos at Galesburg in 1958 and 59. Here you get the brakeman's view of the locomotive going back to the Galesburg station. This view shows the confines of the cab. In June 1961, number 3003 was placed on permanent display at Burlington, Iowa. On October 6, 1957, 484 number 5631 was called on to power an excursion to Galena, Illinois. The Big Northern was built in July of 1940 and was used once for fan trip service. She ran to Savannah, where a general-purpose diesel took the train to Galena. 282 number 5090 was supposed to take the train to Galena, but a severe drought condition and high fire hazard canceled the use of the 5090. The 5631 was later donated to Sheraton, Wyoming for display. July 4th weekend of 1958 brought out Northern number 5618. Built in the West Burlington shops in October of 1937, this engine was running off its last miles on this excursion. Pulling a 4-car special to Minneapolis-St. Paul in return, the locomotive topped the 90-mile-per-hour mark several times. After riding a Duluth-Mesabian Iron Range excursion out of Duluth, Minnesota, the Chicago group returned to St. Paul to repeat the ride along the east bank of the Mississippi. Here the 5618 backs down to the station from Dayton Bluff Yard and then departs for Chicago. While our train is being coupled together on an adjacent track, the morning Twin City Zephyr is being spotted to load passengers. With the mighty Mississippi River in the background, 5618 makes a high-speed photo run at Maiden Rock, Wisconsin. A final service stop for lubrication, coal, and water was made at Savannah. The last photo run was made near Oregon, Illinois before returning to Chicago. Another Hudson, this time 3001, was selected for a fall foliage excursion on October 13, 1958. Also an alumni of the Baldwin class of 1930, this locomotive and its brethren were assigned to such crack trains as the Aristocrat, the Blackhawk, and the Exposition Flyer. The sellout trip was sponsored by the North Palos Community Council. The routing was a little unusual. The train operated down the Ottawa branch to Burgess Junction, turned on the Y, and returned to Aurora. There, the train reversed direction one more time and headed west for some high-speed mainline running. In July 1995, CB&Q Hudson number 3007 was purchased by auction from a private enterprise by the Illinois Railway Museum. The locomotive is in excellent mechanical condition and will possibly be steamed up again in the next couple of years. With its firebox glowing red, 3001 races west to Earlville at 60 miles per hour. This was the last Hudson-type locomotive to operate in the U.S., and it was placed on permanent display at Ottumwa, Iowa after retirement in 1959. On November 2, 1958, a newcomer to the fan trip scene arrived. 484 number 5632 was used on its first of many excursions all over the Burlington system. The engine was to become the last operating northern on the railroad. Built in the West Burlington shops in August of 1940, it would become the most photographed locomotive in the country. Designed for dual service, it was at home moving 150-car freight trains as well as any passenger train assigned to it. Like its brethren, this was a no-nonsense locomotive. Big, burly, and loud. If you never heard one of these locomotives accelerate a passenger train out of Aurora, Illinois with the exhaust noise bouncing off the nearby buildings, well, you just haven't lived. And that whistle? The 5-chime Banshee whistle could raise you out of your socks a half a mile away. When this baby was on the line, you better stand back. Converted to burn oil, 5632 could go almost anywhere a diesel could go. She was the queen of the rails from 1958 to 1965. As time went on and the other 484s were retired, parts from those locomotives began appearing on the 5632 to keep it operational. When Harry Murphy, the president of the Q, retired, a very cost-conscious management used maintenance cost and a lack of qualified personnel as an excuse to retire the locomotive. "282 Mikado number 4960 appeared on December 28, 1958. Brought up from the Southern Illinois coal line, it was thought that this locomotive would be around for a few excursions at best. As it turned out, this rather homely-looking locomotive was to close out all steam activity on the Q in July 1966. By a strange set of circumstances, the 4960 is still around in the 1990s and is now owned by the Grand Canyon Railway and due to be fired up again in 1996. Seen here on her inaugural run to Ottawa, Illinois, the 1923 Baldwin coal burner was at home wandering around the lesser-traveled branch lines as well as the main line. Because it was the Christmas season, Santa rode the train and left Rudolph at home. Due to the lack of water towers, the local fire department was often used to fill the tender. To solve the watering problem, an auxiliary tender from the Colorado and Southern was later added to the 4960. The railroad realized that the general public also enjoyed the sights and sounds of a steam locomotive. Special short trips were generated at various towns along the line. These trips were underwritten by local merchants to promote Saturday business. Starting in March of 1962, Kitty Choo-Choo specials were operated. The trains were run to give school-age children a chance to ride behind a smoke-belching, hissing steam locomotive. By offering a low fare to fill the train, a break-even operation was achieved. During the Mississippi River floods of 1965, 4960 was used for flood duty at Savannah, Illinois, as well as pulling the annual circus train from Baraboo, Wisconsin to Milwaukee over the Chicago and Northwestern in 1965 and 66. By 1959, it was becoming apparent that the remaining steam locomotives of the Burlington were not going to return to service. As a finale to the previous 4 years, the Illini Railroad Club ran what has to be the epitome of fan trips. A double-header utilizing a giant 210-4 number 6315 and 484 number 5632 were operated from Chicago to Galesburg on September 6, 1959. Actually, the 6315 was added to the train at Laverne Station just west of the Clyde Yard. The 5632 was dispatched to Union Station to bring the train out to Laverne. The 6315 was built by Baldwin in 1927 and was the largest locomotive class on the Q roster. Carrying 24 tons of coal and 21,500 gallons of water, this engine was designed to pull some heavy-duty freight trains at a sustained speed of 50 miles per hour. With 10 64-inch coupled driving wheels, it was quite a capable locomotive. At approximately 9:30 a.m., extra 6315 and 5632 coupled became a green light on the dispatcher's board and headed out on the main line to Galesburg. Along the way, both eccentric rods on the 210-4 broke. This rendered the 6315 inoperable. The 5632 pushed the 210-4 and pulled the all-heavyweight coach train to Galesburg. By 1961, all of the remaining steam locomotives except 5632 and 4960 were declared surplus and sold for scrap. Locomotives began appearing in long lines at Clyde, Lincoln, and Galesburg yards. They were sold to the Northwest Steel and Wire Company at Sterling, Illinois, along with Grand Trunk Western locomotives. All of these locomotives were dismantled and melted down into new usable steel. Your current automobile, stove, fence wire, or anything else made of steel may have been one of these engines. These scenes were photographed at Northwest Steel and Wire in March of 1962. The Mike and the Northern double-headed twice in their careers. On April 1, 1962, they ran together from Chicago to Savannah, Illinois. One of those unexpected spring snowstorms developed, and a biting east wind and blowing snow. It couldn't have been a more miserable day. To commemorate the 100th anniversary of the opening of the Chicago-Aurora Main Line, 5632 was painted gold for the occasion. On Wednesday, May 20th, 1964, a special 7-car train picked up suburban town dignitaries and ferried them to a festive dinner party in Aurora. On Saturday, May 23rd, the engine pulled what has to be a record crowd of 3,500 people in a 22-car commuter train. The passengers were treated to a locomotive and rail car display in Aurora. At $1 a head, it's no wonder the train was sold out. In 1965, the railroad decided to no longer repair 5632. Being partially dismantled at the West Burlington shops, it was sold to rail fan Dick Jensen. The locomotive was ultimately scrapped over legal and monetary problems between Jensen and the Chicago and Illinois Western Railway. A very sad ending for such a popular locomotive. On March 4th, 1966, the Q management announced that all steam excursions would end August 1st. Actually, they ended July 17th with the final run of the 4960 to Denrock, Illinois. Called the Denrock Zephyr, the last steam run was a little somber, but that didn't stop 1,500 people from all parts of the United States from participating. The final photo runs were made at Prophetstown and Denrock. Here the train crosses the Illinois Central tracks and passes the Mendota Tower for the last time. When the 4960 pulled into Union Station that night, it had rolled up an impressive 1,500,000 miles. The 4960 was donated to the Circus World Museum at Baraboo, Wisconsin. On an uneventful Thursday morning in July 1966, the coal-burning Mikado was fired up for the last time and turned over to the Chicago and Northwestern for movement to Baraboo. The 11-year odyssey had finally come to a close. Everyone thought the euphoria of steam would never end. The Northern and the Mike should have gone to the scrap heap a long time ago. Thanks to a management team with a little sentiment in their hearts, the two locomotives were around a lot longer than they should have been. All we can say is thank you, Burlington.